groomed through social conditioning, it'll get you to understand a lot about how we've been sort of taught to disregard the truth for for a lie. So I want to talk a little bit about religion because those are some of the biggest untruths that have affected us socially and culturally in our community. And I think for us to continue on simply ignoring what the truth is so that we can stay inside of our comfort zones, it makes me sad. Okay, it makes me feel like I have no hope, and it makes me feel like my people don't have any hope. So what I want to do is just get some light shed on the situation, and talk about the effects of it, because where we are right now is in a place where we are desperately needing the effects of the truth. And when I say the effects of the truth, I need you to understand that I'm talking about freedom. We desperately need to be free. But because we have so many issues with acknowledging, identifying, and then moving on the truth, then we come to these issues. We have these real serious problems in our community. So let me go first and talk about identifying the truth, because we have different levels and different types of truth that we need to really go over and sort of review what these different levels or different types of truth is, so that we can acknowledge it, and then we can find a way to better move on the truth. Because I'm going to tell you, once you move on the truth, what happens is you're moving into freedom, you're moving into purpose, you're moving into your personal identity, and you're moving into your specific calling and mission in this life. And so what I don't want you to do is to forego that for ignorance, or on behalf of ignorance, because you just ignorantly decided to ignore what the truth had to tell you and what the truth had to teach you. So to identify the truth, let's talk about the different levels of truth, because there is a universe that exists on a macro level, macro meaning a bigger scale, and then you have the universe on a micro level, which means you as an individual. You as an individual are the exact same thing as the universe at large. It's the exact same thing, but in different sizes. It's like you going to McDonald's and getting a small fry versus getting a large fry. It's the same thing. Okay. And so with that being said, and with that understanding, what I need you to know is that you must move forward in your life identifying different types of truths and putting them in their proper place, because every truth is not your truth. Did you catch that? Every truth is not your truth. Does that mean it doesn't have any validity? Does it mean that it's not something to be considered? No, but it means that it's not yours. Hey, what's up? I'm going to assume that that's fat profit and not fat profit, like I keep wanting to say in my mind. I keep wanting to say fat profit, but anyway, let's just not go there. So I want you to think about the different levels of the truth. Okay. Now, when you have a personal truth, there are different things that you can do with that personal truth than what you could do if it were a universal truth, or if it were the truth of another individual, another person. All right. And so this is how I want us to kind of approach this. You have something called empirical truth. You have something, I equate that to universal truth, or what is also called universal law. If you have universal law, that is an empirical truth, which means there is no truth higher than that. Recognize that truth comes to you in life in the form of a hierarchy. There is a level of application that you can use the truth for. So on an empirical truth level, natural law, universal law, these things can be applied to your life universally. That's the reason why it's called a universal truth. It can be apply not only to yourself, but it also applies to other people. And so when you have that kind of truth, that is something that you should understand, not only about yourself, but about other people. So I'm going to give you an example of what a universal truth would be. It's not something that necessarily has to be written down, but it is something that you can just logically deduce that this is what an empirical truth is, or something that is called a natural law or a universal law. And so I went to a discussion over the weekend and I used the same example and it pretty much made sense. So let's just say you have, you walk up to a person and you have no idea who they are. This is a complete stranger. Universal law would say to you that in conversation, no matter who this person is, because you are a human being and you know that that person is another human being, universal natural law says that this person comes equipped with what we call chakras. And those chakras govern that person's emotional intelligence, or their ability to control and balance out their emotions. And because you know that that comes with every human being on this planet, you can call that an empirical truth. You can say that no matter where you go on this planet, that the person you come in contact with will have had some kind of emotional experience that was designed to teach them some kind of emotional intelligence. And because that's an empirical truth, you can move on that. Okay. You can actually apply that knowledge to your life and how you are treating people, how you're understanding people, how you're interacting and engaging with people. So to take that example a little bit further, let's just say I don't know a person, but because I can see that they're sad, I know what it feels like for me to be sad, because I'm a human being that works on the same operation or the same operating system as this person. So I know when I come in contact with you, if we're having a discussion and I can see that we're having a lighthearted discussion and something comes up in this discussion and your face goes sour, I know, because I'm a human being and because of empirical truth, something just happened inside of your soul that caused you to have this change or this shift in your attitude. Because of empirical truth tells me that you are a human being that is in need of some kind of emotional support, I'm going to give you that. Now let's take it down a level and go to what individual truths are. And this is a bit lower. I'm going to say it's lower on the hierarchy of what truth can be or what truth is when you are applying truth on a personal level. So let's just say, let's take the emotional intelligence and use it as a similar example. A personal truth would be that, okay, yes, I know that universally all people have emotions. Universally, all people must develop their emotional intelligence, but only on a personal level do I deal with my emotions in a specific way. So personally, I can say that I get angry and I get upset when people lie to me, and it's going to cause me to cuss them the hell out. It's causing me to go off somebody, because I know that because of who I am, who I've become as a person, my personal truth says that when something happens and I recognize somebody is lying to me, my truth says that I don't tolerate that well. My truth says that when somebody lies to me, they're about to get cussed out. When I find out that they lied to me, you're going to get your ass cussed out because you lied and I found out and you didn't have to do all that. But that's only my truth. There could be a person out there that really don't care if they get lied to. There could be a person out there that really they handle lies a lot better than I do. That's their truth versus my truth. Does it negate my truth because it doesn't apply to that person? Absolutely not. But because I am able to identify the fact that this is a personal truth for me, not a natural law, it's not an empirical truth that every time somebody lies, the other person who's being lied to must be upset. That doesn't apply. That's not a universal law for everybody on this planet. That's only an applicable truth for me. So when I tell you that my truth says if I catch you lying to me, I'm about to cuss your ass out, you can take that and respect that, because I'm telling you, that's my truth. You can test it if you want to see if it's really true or not. By all means, test it out right quick and see what's going to happen if you lie to me And I done already told you don't do that, because the truth says, my truth says, that if I catch this happening, it's going to be some furniture moving. It's going to be a problem. Okay? So when we have identified what kind of truth we're talking about, are you talking about a truth that applies to only you? Are you talking about a truth that applies to this group of people? Are you talking about a truth that applies over the seas, or on our shores type of truth? Are you talking about a truth that applies at your job only? Are you talking about truth that applies to universally to everybody? What kind of truth are you talking about? That's where we have to start. And once you've figured out, okay, this truth only applies to that person. Okay, it only applies to them, or it only applies to that group, or it only applies to that one, particular person, or it applies to everyone. So once you have identified on the hierarchy what it is, now you got to acknowledge the truth. Okay, my people, we have some of the biggest problems with acknowledging truth. We do not like to come up off of things that, if we come off of it, it's going to take us outside of our comfort zone. Now, I'm going to use my lovely, beautiful Christians as an example for this, because I don't know how many times we have to sit and tell on a public platform, all in the streets, all over the place, that Christianity does not belong to our people. Christianity does not belong to black people. Christianity does not belong to black people. I'm going to keep saying it and repeating it over and over again. If I keep saying it, and it's the truth, and we give empirical truth, empirical data that applies across the board. If you look at human evolution, if you look at historical facts like the Council of Nicaea, you look at the facts of what history tells you, that these people created culture or created religion for the purpose of oppression and submission. I want you to understand that refusing to acknowledge the truth in that, so that you can continue to claim Christianity, so that you can continue to tell people, oh, I'm praying for you. Oh, so you can continue to tell people, Jesus can fix it. Jesus gonna work it out. You're gonna keep pressing and refusing to acknowledge the truth. When you won't acknowledge the truth, you guys, I'm going to tell you a good word for that. It is called ignorance. When you refuse to acknowledge the truth, meaning you are ignoring it. Ignorance. Ignorance. You're being completely ignorant to the facts and the reality of the truth. Now, let's just talk a little bit about what it means to refuse to acknowledge the truth and what that can actually do to you. Because when you have an empirical truth, history is empirical truth. When you have a historical event that's being recounted, after time passes, it creates empirical truth. Because you cannot change what's happened in the past. It becomes an empirical truth. You can't reverse, rewrite, and then go over some things in the past to change it, or to change the outcome of things, or to change the reality of things. So when you're being ignorant and refusing to acknowledge the truth, a couple of things can happen. First thing can happen when you ignore the truth is you suffer the consequences, the repercussions of what that truth would have done to set you free. Now, you know that the truth is twofold. It's like a double-edged sword. When you insert the truth, or when you stab somebody with that truth, that double-edged sword, the first thing it's going to do to them is hurt them. If I'm going to stab you, okay, with this truth, I'm stabbing your ass, okay? Every time I tell you the truth, I'm stabbing you. Double-edged sword. The first edge is going to hurt you. It's going to hurt. You'll feel pain. But the second edge of that sword, it releases you. When you're being stabbed, it's also cutting away the ties of your ignorance. It's also cutting away the bondage of your darkness. It's also setting you free. It hurts. It's painful when you must acknowledge the truth, not just identifying it. Identifying it is one thing, but when you are stabbed with that truth, it's going to cut you. And that cut hurts. But what you must do is recognize that a spiritual injury, okay, a spiritual injury is much different than a physical one in a lot of ways. A physical injury, you have to sort of feel the pain physically, where it's actually, you feel it. But in the spirit, you're feeling that thing in your heart. You're feeling the conviction. You ever been convicted by something when somebody tell you the damn truth about yourself and your chest get to burning? You just be like, I can't believe that person said that. I can't believe that person did that. Oh, I can't believe they know that about me. But after somebody tells you the honest to God truth, whether that be a personal truth that they're telling you about yourself, or whether they're telling you a truth about society, whether they're telling you a truth about your family, telling you the truth about your relationship, telling you the truth about your children, telling you the truth about your finances, telling you the truth about any damn thing, history, telling you the truth about law. Once you have come to acknowledge what the truth is and where it fits inside of you, then you become set free. If I've been getting lied to about, let's just say my husband been cheating on me for God knows how long, and I just been living this lie, I got a lot of different things that tell me, little signs that tell me that I'm getting cheated on. But because I don't want to identify and acknowledge that truth, I might say, oh, well, maybe it's just this or maybe it's just that. I don't want to acknowledge it. But at the moment that truth becomes too much to bear, and I have to start opening up my eyes, and I have to start getting outside of my comfort zone, knowing that I've been married for 30 years. And what I want to do is just ignore this damn thing and keep on moving like I'm not being cheated on, like I'm not getting played, like I'm not being ignorant. But that thing becomes too much to bear on me. I got a man that won't come home. I got a man that's parading women around the city. I got a man that's doing this and that. It's too much of a burden on me. So only when not just identifying and knowing the truth, even though I know this is what's going on, if I refuse to acknowledge it, allow that truth to cut me and set me free, I'm going to be in bondage this whole time. In mental bondage, physical bondage, knowing that my truth has not been allowed to set me free because I refuse to acknowledge it as the truth. You got truths all around you right now that are waiting. They're sitting in a queue, waiting to set you free. You got truths right now that are inside of your mind and inside of your heart, sitting there, waiting. Like, I wonder when this person is going to acknowledge that I'm sitting right here. You ever gone into a store and you just waiting for the person behind the register to acknowledge that you came into the store so that you could start buying stuff or so that you could receive help? That truth is sitting in your heart just like that. The truth is sitting in your heart and in your mind just like that, waiting for you to say, hello, hi, truth. I know that you came through the door. I heard you and I saw you when you came in, but I have not been ready to greet you yet. I have not been ready to sit down and have a talk with you. I've not been ready to show you around at all. So you're going to have to sit in this waiting line. You're going to have to wait in line and wait until I'm ready to acknowledge you so that you can set me free. Now, I don't know how many of you like to be in mental and physical bondage, but when I tell you, the longer you refuse to acknowledge truths, not just universal, not just empirical truth, but your personal truths, also respecting and knowing what to do with the truth of other people. All right, so here we're gonna go into this. You have your personal truth, you have empirical truth. Another type of truth is the truth of other people. We're going to talk about it because the same way you want your truth to be valid, you want your truth to be considered, you want your truth to be moved and acted upon. It's no different than the people around you. It's no different than the people who are in your life right now doing their best to live by their personal truths while sharing their personal truths with you. Okay. And so when you've got that situation going on where a person is trying to invite you into the world of their truth, if you are not humble enough to recognize that this truth on their individual level is just as valid as your individual truth, then you'll go around disrespecting the hell out of people. You'll go around disrespecting people and wondering why they don't get it, wondering why they're upset at you because you just told the truth how you see it. But see, when you recognize only your personal truth as the truth, like my brother said on here, he said the only truth is your truth. And I'm going to tell you, my friend, that's a flaw. The only truth that exists is not just your truth. Your truth only exists to you. But to everybody else, there are several different types of truth that exist on different spectrums, on different levels. So when another person comes into your reality and they're spilling their truth all over you, there is a way you handle that. The truth of another person is only meant for consideration. It's not meant for adaptation or adoption. It's meant for consideration. So when you tell me your truth, I will respect it, because when I tell you my truth, you damn sure better respect it. And if I am, hearing that you have this experience that led you to understand your personal truth in this way, I'm not going to negate your truth. I'm not going to ignore your truth. I'm going to listen. I'm going to consider, and I might choose to accept your truth, or I might choose to reject it. I'm going to respect that that's your truth regardless. But does that mean that I have to live my life in such a way just because your truth is what it is? No, I do not. And no, I will not. But if you said something to me that lets me know that your truth applies to me, that your truth resonates with me, that your truth may help me or may set me free, you damn right I'm going to respect it, and I'm going to adopt it. I'm going to accept it. I'm going to consider it. I'm going to acknowledge it. Why? Because for the third thing on this list, after you identify the truth and you have it acknowledged for whatever level it should be on, whether it should be a personal truth, a group, a truth that applies to a group, or a truth that applies to the people, everybody in the world. If you've got an empirical truth, you must learn to accept it after you have acknowledged it. Why? Because you've got to move on that damn thing. You got to move on it. There is no way that somebody's going to tell me that it's very true now. This is a truth that my food is toxic. And I need to start looking at the back of my label so that I can start keeping my body and my healthy and my family healthy. I'm not going to ignore that. Why? I need to move on the truth. I can't be ignorant in that way. I need to move on it. So every time I go to the store from now on, when I pick up something, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it around and look at the back of the label. I have to move on this truth. I have to act on this truth. If I continue to ignore it, I will continuously be bound by ignorance. I will continuously have to be subject to whatever my ignorance is causing me to live through. If I don't know that my food is toxic and I need to look at the back of the label, I'm going to continuously have to experience the repercussions of me being ignorant of the truth that I should be ignoring because I'm aware. If I become aware of a truth that's been identified to me, socially, we all know that food is toxic. But if you go out every day and you just putting stuff in your mouth and you don't even know, or you don't even care what's in it, even though you know you should care and you know that you could simply ask or simply turn around and read, you're going to be bound by your own ignorance of the truth, meaning your own ignoring of the truth, okay? Because if you don't move on that intelligence, if you don't move on that information, if you don't move on that truth, you have to suffer the consequences. The repercussions are yours. So what's going to happen? Your body becomes ill. What happens? You become overweight. What happens? You become dissatisfied. What happens? You lose your confidence. What happens? You the one that can't breathe. What happens? You can't fit into your clothes. What happens? You lose everything that you could have had if you were to acknowledge and then move on the truth. Okay? And so when you get a person that comes into your life and they tell you, this is my truth. This is my truth. No, you don't have to accept it. No, you don't have to live with it. Oh, you know what, Romaine, you've been telling me to do that. Darling, I really don't know how to do that. I don't know how to pin the topic. How do I do that? I got to comment and then pin it. Y'all teach me how to do it, because sometimes when I go on here, I just go live. I don't be knowing how to get it on here. But Romaine, I want to tell you the topic that we're talking about is acknowledging the truth and knowing what to do with it. We're talking about identifying the truth, acknowledging it, and then moving on it. And so the real issue here is that I'm looking at social conditions that are, that are tearing my people down and causing us to live in a perpetual state of confusion, because we have a lot of truths floating around out here. And we don't know what to do with it. We don't know what to do with our truth. I feel like a lot of times we want to despise the truth because we think that the truth has to apply to everybody all the time. And that's a misconception. The truth does not just belong to one person. The truth belongs to an entire culture of people on an individual level, on a communal level, and also on a universal level. And so we got to start understanding the difference between these things. Understand the difference, okay, of what it means to acknowledge and accept truth on different levels. Because there are levels to this thing. There are things that apply to you in truth. And in truth, there are some things that do not simply apply to you. We are dual beings, and we are subject to duality. And what that means is that, I should say, we're not only subject to duality, but we're also subject to relativity. The law of relativity, which is universal, says that everything that applies to one person does not apply to all people. There are some things that do apply to all people that are not relative, but that is not something that we can control. You know, the serenity prayer where it tells you to give me the wisdom to control the things or to, basically let go of the things I can't control. This is what we have to understand how to do. Because if you are trying to apply the truths of another person to your life when it's not applicable, you're the one that's losing. You're losing because you don't know how to identify the truth on its many different levels of existence. And if you are trying to apply truths to yourself that don't apply, or if you refuse to acknowledge truths that do apply, these are the consequences that you face. If somebody looks at you and I should say this. If you know that you are consistently becoming angry at things that you cannot control, let's just say your spouse likes to argue with you and you don't. Okay, this is your truth. And it's also the truth of your spouse. They like to argue. They like to cause confusion. They like to bring up a bunch of mess and cause you to fight. Your truth says, I don't like to fight. I would prefer not to do this. Now, as long as you are going to rationalize within yourself, refuse to acknowledge, refuse to move on your truth for the sake of another person's truth, meaning the sake of your spouse's truth, you must deal with the repercussions of that. You will forever hold yourself in the bondage of ignorance because you have refused to acknowledge and move on your own truth. If your spouse likes to holler and fuss and cuss and get all up in arms about stuff, that's them. Let them go find somebody that appreciates that type of sentiment in their relationship. But if it's not for you, then don't accept it. Don't accept the truth of another person that does not agree with you. Now, if you with the shits, if you with the shits and you just okay with it, then go ahead. Don't be mad about it. Don't get upset when they start fighting at you, or don't get mad and upset when they start to go in on your ass, because you know the truth. You know that this is what this person likes. This is what this person wants to do. So why be all frustrated about it? Do you understand what I'm saying? Why be frustrated about it? Acknowledge the truth. Either you're going to be with it or you're not. These are binary decisions that we should be making in our lifetime every day, because the truth is only twofold. Either it is or it ain't. And that's exactly how you need to be. Either it is or it ain't. There is no in between. There is no lukewarm. There is no gray area. The truth is the truth. Whether it applies to you or in this particular situation, or just applies to that person, or it applies to a group of people or everybody, the truth is the truth. And so we have to do ourselves the service to recognize it on its many different levels. Now, I'm not going to tell my spouse, all right, now I don't like to argue, so now you have to change who you are. You have to change your truth because you appreciate a good argument and I don't. I'm not with the shits. So if you find out that this is your truth and it's not going to budge unless you're willing to go ahead and bend a little, is your truth bendable? Can you come outside of your comfort zone? And I want you to recognize that I said that people ignore the truth because they don't want to step outside of comfort zones. You don't acknowledge the truth because you're comfortable with that thing. You sleeping with the devil and he's stroking you right. Okay? Or you sleeping with the devil and she touching you right. She's whispering in your ear the right thing. And so you get comfortable with that demon. You get comfortable with that devil. And that devil is telling you everything other than, we don't want this. Your truth says differently than that. And as long as you ignore your truth, you're going to continue sleeping in the bed with that devil. And that devil is going to continuously give you the repercussions of you ignoring your truth or being ignorant about what it is that you could have moved on. You could have moved if you acknowledged your own truth. Earlier in a relationship, 10 years ago, you could have moved. 5 years ago, you could have moved on that truth. But you refused to get outside of your comfort zone and you held yourself in bondage of ignorance. You held yourself in a place where you knew that your truth was going to be somebody else's. You want a truth that ain't really yours. You ever had to try to put on some pants that wasn't yours? You ever gone over your cousin's house as a child and you left your overnight bag at home and you had to put on your cousin's pants and they just a little too small for you? Or they too short and you done had to walk around with these pants cutting you all up in your ass while you trying to walk, you got wedgies everywhere. That's how it feels when you got a truth that don't apply to you. You all into something else that's not even yours. And it feel funny. You walking around with that wedgie all up your ass because you done had to wear somebody else's truth. Because you keep on ignoring what it is that you are trying to accomplish in your truth. I'm going to read this comment because I got a comment that I want to answer. So does that mean that every time you don't agree with someone, you up and leave? Because some people will take that and use that as an excuse to sleep with different people, being promiscuous in their truth, or if that's their truth. But listen, if this is where the person is, where they want to go ahead and start doing some dog shit to you because they're not happy or their truth, they're okay with that in their truth, then you don't have to accept that. And this is the beauty of having a personal truth versus having a universal or a communal truth. When it's something that only applies to you, you have all freedom to honor your own truth. You don't owe anybody any explanations, just like they don't owe you any explanations. If they say that they want to use their unsatisfied or their dissatisfaction to go ahead and cheat on you, they want to be promiscuous, and that's their truth because they're unhappy, they're unsatisfied. You not treating them like you used to, you not taking them out like you used to, you not whatever. If their truth comes and says, listen, I need something different, I need to go, I need to be out here, I need to be in these streets, that's their truth. You do not have to subject yourself to the repercussions of another person's personal truth. Okay? It's only up to them how they want to move on what is true for them. Now, I would say that you might want to talk to the person and ask them, what is your truth in this situation? Because if your spouse comes to you and tells you, listen, I'm not happy, I'm not satisfied, there are some things going on in this relationship that make me unhappy, and my personal truth says that I'm getting ready to cheat on you. Now, let me say this. Would you be receptive enough to that? Or would you have an ego? If the person who was going and cheating and spending their time outside the relationship, if they came to you and told you why they were doing that, would you be upset? And would you ignore their truth, or would you respect it? And would you say, because this is your truth, I'm going to listen to you and I am going to conform. I'm going to bend my truth a little bit so that I can meet you where you are. Now, if I know that you're cheating on me because I haven't paid attention to you in the last 5 years of our relationship, because I've been off running my business, I've been taking care of the kids, I've been doing this and that, I'm not going to hate you because you acknowledged and moved on your own truth to go and find happiness however you wanted to find it. You do with your body what you want to do with your body. Now, if my truth says I can't handle infidelity, you should have talked to me like this before you went to cheat, then that's on you. You have every right to move on your truth the same way that person had every right to move on their truth. It's up to you to say, I can't deal with that. You done went and shared your coochie. You done went and shared your penis. I don't want it anymore. Because inside of me, I know the truth that inside of me says I don't deal with I don't tolerate that kind of stuff. And so maybe you're a little bit like me where you can bend a little. If my husband was to go out and cheat on me right now because it was something that I wasn't doing and not listening to and not acknowledging when he comes to me and say, babe, my truth now. A man could come to a woman and say, babe, we're not doing enough in the bed. Babe, you haven't touched me in a year. Babe, I need more. That's that person's truth. Now, if he presents me with the truth and I still refuse to acknowledge it, if I refuse to respect it, if I refuse to move on the truth, if my husband come to me and tell me I'm not doing enough and I ignore him, he got every right. He has every right to follow his truth and going to find what he needs because of his truth. I can't be mad at that if I chose to be ignorant and ignore what that man came to tell me in his truth. Okay? It doesn't matter if I agree with it or not. He could come to me and say, I need you to do more. And I could rebuttal and say, well, I'm doing everything I can do. I'm doing everything I need to do. I'm doing everything, blah, blah, blah. Now, if my truth doesn't agree with his, guess what? Me and him have some talking that we need to do. Because if he's not getting enough and I feel like I am doing enough in my truth and me doing more would be too much, if that's my truth, me and him got some things to discuss. Because we never going to be on the same page. I'm never going to accept his truth and he'll never accept mine. And what does that mean? We're living in dysfunction. We're not making any progress. We're not doing anything on one accord. Why? Because we're living two different truths. Two different personal truths that don't blend and don't mesh well together. Am I going to be upset that this is how this man is living in his reality? Absolutely not. I'm going to respect that person expressed their truth and that this is where they are right now. I can accept it. I can reject it. I can consider it. But what I cannot do is negate it. I cannot say that that's not your personal truth because it's not mine. That's not how the truth works. You have truths that do apply to every person. But then you also have truths that only apply on levels of hierarchy, where you can only say, this is my truth, or this is true for this whole group of people. Let's use African American people, for example. You can use statistics to reveal the collective truths of our community. A collective truth of our community is that you might not want to go outside your front door talking reckless to a police officer if you are clothed in melanated skin. Why? Because your ass might get shot. Ignore it if you want to. Ignore the truth if you want to. You could walk around all willy-nilly and say, oh, that's only in that community. That's only in the hood. That doesn't apply to me. I'm black. But when the police come to me, I can pop off at the mouth and I can, be all kinds of ghetto and be all kinds of opinionated and hollering and screaming and snatching stuff out their hand. You can do that if you want to. Go and try it. Go and try it. Disregarding the truth. Disregarding what you know is applicable to either yourself, it's applicable to your community, or it's applicable to the entire freaking world, applicable to your country, wherever the truth might be applicable. This is where it must be applied. This is where it must be moved on. If it's not applicable, then you know you can't move on it, or you shouldn't try to move on it if it's not applicable. Everybody's truth is not your truth, and your truth is not everybody else's. Respect that. Learn how to deal with it. Learn how to handle it. Because if you continue to ignore what it is relative to where it is on this level of hierarchy, you're playing yourself. You're playing the people around you. You're playing your future. You're playing your freedom. You cannot be set free if you continuously ignore the truth. And on a personal level, you will remain in bondage to yourself. You will remain confused about who you are, about where you're going, about what you're doing, about why you're doing it. If you refuse to acknowledge your personal truth, you will continuously get caught up in this circle of trying to understand that which cannot be understood without the truth. The truth is applicable in only specific ways. You are the person to determine how you apply the truth. If I say that my husband is, or excuse me, if my husband expresses to me that he's not satisfied with where I am in our relationship, communication wise or sex wise. And let me just give you a quick little note, y'all. My husband is very satisfied with our sex life. I'm using this as an example because I'm using it as an example, but because I hate when people be like, oh, she must not be. But anyway, I got to tell you this. If my husband come to me and tell me that he's not satisfied with our sex life and we need to do more, and I refuse to hear that, I refuse to acknowledge that as his personal truth, I refuse to respect it, and I refuse to act on it, that's going to be my problem. But if I'm going to act on it, you guys, this is what I was trying to say. If I'm going to act on the truth, I can choose how to do that within my personal truth. Oh, this is beautiful. I'm glad that my mind just did this. Okay, listen. If somebody presents their personal truth to you, you can accept it or reject it. Okay. But the beautiful thing about accepting and respecting the truth of another person is that the truth is blendable. It's malleable. It can be altered, so to speak. You can work with it. It can be molded like clay to where I hear your truth. Okay. My truth says that if you're okay, because you're telling me that you're not satisfied, my truth says that I'm not comfortable. And that's why you're not satisfied, because I'm not comfortable with our sex life. Our sex life might be going cold. And that's the reason why you're having the truth that you're having, because you're experiencing a truth where you're not getting enough. And I'm experiencing a truth where I am uncomfortable with what's going on. And my truth is causing yours. And your truth might be causing mine. But because we are doing this together as a joint effort, as a partnership, I should be able to say, okay, well, in order for me to comply with your truth, in order for me to resonate more with your truth, saying that, okay, this person is dissatisfied and not enough is coming out of this relationship sexually. So how am I going to honor that? How am I going to move on it? I'm going to act within my truth. I'm going to act within the boundaries of my truth. I said in my truth, I'm uncomfortable with this situation because not enough is going on in my mind in a way of romance, let's say. So I say, okay, I hear that you're not getting enough in the sex department. So let me tell you the reason why I'm not getting enough in the romance department. And so because of that, both of us are going to have to step outside of our comfort zone, and we're going to have to appease each other. We're going to have to acknowledge and move on the truth. So within my boundaries of I'm not really comfortable because this is not romantic, and that's the reason why we're not having sex, then I'm going to start moving on certain things. I'm going to start coming to my spouse and saying my truth is ready to blend and mend with yours. And so how about we choose something romantic to do? Okay. You want more sex? I'm willing to give you that because I recognize that your truth is what it is. You're not getting enough, but I need you to give me something in compliance with my truth. I need more romance. So if you give me that, I can give you that. And so this is how we start to blend the truth. This is how we start to work with the truth. This is how we start to move on it and act on it. We want some win-win situations out of the truth. And as I'm setting you free, you're setting me free. As I am giving you the truth that is painful. Now let's just say, okay, I want to take it a step further because I want you to know how painful it can be when you recognize the truth, but you still must speak it in order for you to be set free. I'm going to use the same example. Suppose my husband came back to me and said, well, I'm not romantic because you've gained weight. I don't necessarily appreciate your body how it used to be. You gained 70 pounds. And I can't really be attracted the same way I was attracted to you when you were, before we had this baby. You were active, you were exercising. Ooh, ouch. Ooh, that hurt. But what's going to happen if I acknowledge that that's the truth that my spouse just gave to me, and I move on it? I respect that that's the truth and I move on it. What happens? Here comes health. Here comes life. Here comes freedom. If I move on the fact that I am not being romanced by my husband because I have gained 70 pounds and he does not feel comfortable being romantic with me because he's no longer physically attracted to me. If I can be open and I can be receptive and I can drop my ego and I can acknowledge the truth that that man just said, I can look at my body and see that I done gained 70 pounds. I can be reasonable in my mind to know that everybody is not attracted to that. Do I want to save my marriage? Do I want to please my husband? Do I want to respect his truth? Do I want to respect my own truth? I can look at myself and see that this has occurred. I can look at myself and see that my truth needs to accompany his. I need to realize in my mind that something has occurred, that something needs healing, that something needs me to act on it. If he says, I'm not satisfied, I can't romance you as well as I used to because your body has changed and I can't really get with it. That is up to me to move on that. That's up to me to move on the truth and get up and go exercise and give that man a little bit more of what he's looking for. Because truth is to be respected no matter what level it's on. Now, if I want to reject that and say, that's okay, if you don't like that, the fact that I've gained this weight, my truth says that I'm very comfortable with my body. My truth says that I'm really not into this relationship anymore like that anyway. So I'm just going to bounce. That's up to you if you want to completely disregard that man's truth. If you want to completely do away with your marriage because you don't want to acknowledge nor move on the truth for yourself. That's up to you, boo. That's up to you. But for you to simply ignore the truth and think that something's going to come out of it, you think that that man going to change and could just all of a sudden start giving you romance out of nowhere when he done told you 70 million times that he's not okay with the weight gain. You're going to continuously keep yourself in a bondage, a state of bondage and dysfunction. I have another question. She's Mambo said, this is my girl Mambo Sauce. Is it bad to set your truths aside while you get prepared for the next move into your truth? I think that there is a respect that goes with you being able to leave your truth in a queue. Okay? If your truth is in a queue, that's okay. But let's just say I'm going to use the same store example that I used before. You walk into a store and you expect to be acknowledged when you enter the room. But the salespeople are all on the floor busy. Everybody's busy. They can't really get to you at the time because the store is crowded. And, they just can't speak to you right now. They might, hey, what's up? We got a sale 30% in the back. And that's as much as you're going to get in the way of being acknowledged. But with the truth, it's the same way. A truth comes into your awareness. You become aware of some truth and you're just not ready to deal with it. I think the best way for you to continue on in health is to meditate on the truth and meditate on what you want to do with it when you get to a place where you can move on it. Because no, you're not going to move on the truth every time it makes itself away. Sometimes truths are really large. Like I said, a universal truth is something that's applicable to everybody. But in your personal application of a universal truth, it is extremely daunting. Some truths are very heavy on the shoulders. They come to you like a burden. And like I said, they will cut your ass. And it will hurt. You're not always available. So let's just say you just coming out of the pain of another truth. You still got bandages on your side from that truth. Now you might not be ready to go ahead and start getting, the knife stuck in on this side. You might have to wait until you heal up over here so that you can come over this side. Okay, now come on with the truth. Come on with the truth. Come on with the truth. Stab me. And then you go, okay, now I'm ready to heal from this one. Okay, I'm ready to be set free from this one. Sometimes it works like that. But what you do not want to do at all costs is allow the truth to come into your life and you sit on it so long that you continuously have to experience dysfunction and dissatisfaction and stagnation and depression and everything else that you have to experience as a result of ignoring the truth. If you can handle whatever is going on in your life, besides the truth, if you're not going to handle it, if you're not going to act on it and move on it, if you can handle it, okay, the way things are going inside the truth, using my relationship thing for an example, if you can handle not being loved on, if you can handle not having fulfillment and not having this freedom that the truth is trying to give you just because you want to avoid that pain, if you can handle it, okay, handle it. But you got to brace yourself for the truth, because when it does come to you and it does stab you with that pain, you're going to have to know that your recovery is going to take some time, that you putting that truth to use is going to take a little moment after you've healed from it. You know, once I hear that I'm 70 pounds overweight and that's the reason why I've not been loved by my husband in 2-3 years, and I come to realize that it was because I have been overweight and dogging myself out, I might have to simmer with that for a while. Why? Because I'm trying to figure out how am I going to move on this thing. This man done told me that I'm overweight and he doesn't really love my body anymore. And that's the reason why I'm feeling lonely in my relationship. That's the reason why I can't satisfy him. That's the reason why he's not loving on me like he used to. I got to sit with that. Why? Because I got to figure out how am I going to fix it. I got to figure out what am I going to do. I got to figure out what's getting ready to be my new workout schedule. How am I going to get myself out of this comfort zone that's caused me to be in this space that has created this truth? I'm in a mental space that has created this truth. I'm in a mental space that's caused me to be overweight. I'm in a mental space that has me feeling a lack of love from my spouse. I'm in a mental space. And so when I'm able to deal with that, when I'm able to handle the weight of the truth telling me, listen, this is your problem. Your problem is that you're overweight. I got to figure out how I want to move forward. How do I want to move on this truth after I have acknowledged it to be true? My husband coming and telling me that that's his personal truth, it doesn't have to be mine. But if I'm going to respect that for him, 70 extra pounds is not attractive, I have to respect that that's not his truth. I have to respect that that is his truth. I can't negate that just because I'm okay with walking around with 70 extra pounds on my body. I cannot expect to impose that truth on another person and expect for them to continuously treat me the same when I have changed. Truthfully, I've changed. And so we have to learn that this acknowledgement of the truth, even if you're preparing for the next move that you're going to make, meditate on that truth. Figure out what you're going to do with it. Figure out how it's going to be honored. And coming down to the truth is not just about honoring your own personal truth. You got to honor the truth of people around you. Like I said, if people are looking at you and telling you truths that are stemming from you, respect it. If they're telling you truths that they see from themselves, you got to respect it. You got to understand that their truth is their truth, regardless of what your truth is, regardless of what you think their truth should be. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign out because this is the end of my time. I only got about 5 more minutes left or 6 more minutes left. But I want to just give you this parting gift is that when you identify the truth, make sure that you know what level of truth it is on, because if it is just your truth, you should not be walking around expecting people to honor your personal truths as if they belong to other people, because they don't. And as long as you are expecting other people to acknowledge and honor your truth, you're going to get fucked up in the game because nobody cares. People don't care about your truth more than they care about their own. So what I want you to do is to be the person who acknowledges your own truth more so than anybody else. You can go around spitting your truth to everybody the way you see it, and they don't care because it doesn't apply to them. Learn the law of relativity. Learn the law of duality and polarity, and understand that we are all the same, but we are all different. And I do not have to have the same thoughts about the truth personally as how you do. Yes, there are some things that exist and for all of us, like the laws that I just called out, relativity, polarity, mentality, vibration, everything like that. That's something that can't nobody negate. None of us can say, oh, that's not my truth. Yes, it is. Because it's universal. But there are truths that are lower than universal truths. And they don't have the same place as a universal truth as a personal truth. Okay? They don't belong on the same spectrum, or they don't belong in the same pool of consideration. Okay, we're considering the truth as it is relative to the person and the situation. So always remember that when you identify the truth and what level it's on, you must acknowledge the doggone truth and then move on it. If you refuse to move on it, the truth will never set you free. That last step, you can identify and acknowledge the truth all you want. If you don't move on it, if you don't implement, if you don't adopt, if you don't accept, you will not be set free from that truth. It will continuously sit in the queue until you're ready to move on it. And that's exactly what I mean by the truth is in the queue. It's not acknowledged and it's not setting you free. It's not doing you no good until you move on it. And it will continuously remain in a queue, waiting for you to go ahead and move on it so that it can come on out and set you free. All right. You guys, my website is www.reeseroberts.com. I have sessions available if you need someone to talk to about your personal whatevers. We got a lot of stuff going on out here, but I will sit with you. The prices are low. 30 minutes starts off at $20 and it goes up from there. So go online to www.reeseroberts.com to get the details on starting a session with me. I have open enrollment for a training class, which is geared towards teaching you the fundamentals of research and debate so that you can learn how to teach yourself and learn how to become a student of yourself. If you have to know thyself, then you must learn thyself. And for you to learn thyself, you must be able to learn from yourself. So I want to teach you how to do that. I want to teach you how to use that to act on these personal truths that you're finding from yourself. So if you wanted some information on that, you can go to my website, my other website, which is www.servbossinc.com/register. ServBoss is spelled ServBossinc. I'm going to put this in the comments for y'all real quick. But this is so you can go and get access into these classes and possibly train with me on how to get your internal research. Okay, I'm not talking about researching like in a library. I'm talking about researching right within yourself. Okay, here's the link. I just put it down there for you. If you want to go ahead and click on it. That's where you go to get into these classes. The fee is $150. It's $120 with the coupon. I do allow payment arrangements. So if you want to do installments or if you want to do an arrangement, I'll even waive the fee for you if you can fill out the waiver form if you qualify for waiving the enrollment fee. But this class is absolutely phenomenal. It comes with free textbooks, and it also comes with free consults with me. So it's a huge value. It's for your teenagers, but it's also for you. So click on that link, servbossinc.com/register. You can download the program details, download the instructions on how to get enrolled, and download the instructions on how to join the classes. It's an 8-week program, and it's definitely going to teach you something. It's going to teach you about how you can become your own master up here by way of your own efforts. Okay, I'm teaching you not about external research. I'm teaching you about how to research inside of yourself. Your DNA is information, and you must know how to research and cite the information that's coming off of your DNA in such a way that it actually helps you and teaches you about who you are. So click on that link, you guys. Get registered. It's for you. And you can also look it up on Instagram, which is T-Team Researchers, I think, or T-Team Researchers, TEETEAM Research. But anyway, thank you guys for dropping in. Thank you guys for stopping by. www.reeseroberts.com. Join as a member. You get free book downloads on that too. If you ever wanted to read something, get your mind on something the way I be reading, I got some free book downloads on there for you. You need that. www.reeseroberts.com. Go to the join tab, submit your name and your email, and I'll give you free access. Okay. I'll give you free access to get these books. It's at least 15 books on there, 14 to 15 books on there that you can get for free on your electronic or digital library. Please don't take it for granted. Okay. There's also specially curated content from YouTube on there that you can look for to see some, I want to say, eye-opening things. I'm not going to say much else about that. Eye-opening things, okay? I love you guys. Please go forward in peace. Enjoy your entire week and make sure that you are acknowledging your truth, okay? Don't settle on your truth for anybody or anyone. It all belongs to you, okay? Holla.